All right, Sarah, you're like one of the 3 or 4 best women fighters on earth. You get injured, you don't get to fight for a long time. When you do finally fight, you get to fight the same girl that you fought twice, and then a whole bunch of tomato cans come and ask you the same questions over and over again. And you smile through the whole thing, but I have a feeling you're going to be really ornery on Saturday night because of the last year.
I mean, definitely. I want to get in that cage and just kind of put to rest the 3 fights, put to rest the layoff, put to rest everything that's been happening and all the frustrations, and just get in there and not think about anything other than kind of beating Alexis to a pulp and making it the most exciting fight that people have ever seen.
I think we're through here. Rampage Jackson, the co-main event. Were you excited when you heard the guy was back on the card?
Absolutely. I've been a fan of Rampage since the Pride days, and you know, whether he's been fighting super well or not over the last couple years, I mean, you're still a fan of his. At least I am, and so it's great for the 186 card to have Rampage back, and for me as a fan to be able to get to watch this fight after I win.
I heard a whole bunch of people, this is a topic you hear all the time, people talking about how important trying to sell fights is, how people look, all of that stuff. Do you get tired of hearing that question? Do you get tired of talking about that? Should that stuff even matter?
It's part of the fight game. It's unfortunately you can't just show up and go in the cage and leave and not say a single word, and it's all promotion, and the UFC has to do promotion, and as fighters we have to do kind of self-promotion as well. And if you don't like it, maybe you shouldn't be in the sport, or not that you shouldn't be in the sport, but you shouldn't be complaining or upset if you're not getting attention and you're not making more money and you're not getting bigger fights. You have to be out there, you have to be pushing yourself and making the fans want to see you, because ultimately if you're a great fighter and no one cares to watch, well, you're going to kind of fall to the wayside. And I think you saw that with Chael. You saw a big switch in Chael when initially he was a great fighter, would beat everybody, would win fights, but you didn't really know who he was. And then with the Anderson fight, it really kind of changed for him. I'm not saying everyone should beat Chael, because not everyone, almost no one could beat Chael, but that idea of just making people care.
I listened to people ask you about Paige Vanzant, and it kind of seemed like you had one of the better observations of people that I've heard, which is that this young person went in and just had a hellacious fight, aggression-wise and pace-wise. And when that's the case, you can kind of teach somebody like that how to be a great fighter technically, right?
I think that she does have good technique. I didn't mean it in a stab at her, but I do think that as an experienced fighter, some of those positions where you get into, you kind of forget, well, I can just hit them in the face and they'll probably let go. And I think that there was a lot of that youthfulness that I feel like I used to have that now has led way to being a little bit more analytical and thoughtful, that I could use back in my game as well. Just let loose, go at it, know that your training has been there, your cardio's there, and have a good time in the cage. And I think that's what Paige did on last week.
That brings up a question. So when you work now, you'll work on the proper choices to make in any position. In whatever, you know, striking anywhere, you're working on the proper choices to make. And there's a right and a wrong everywhere you are. How do you do that and still allow yourself to be creative and free in a fight?
Well, unfortunately, I mostly do that. It's kind of my mathematical side coming out, where there is a right and there is a wrong. And for me, my biggest thing is actually worrying less about the technique and worrying more about having a good time and fighting hard. And, you know, you can do all the placement of your foot or your hand, your head position, your hip position, shrimp your hips out an inch farther, put them farther in. You know, there are all those small, minute details that are very important. But there's also something to be said for put your fist in their face and get them away from you. And so it's a mixture of doing both of those things in a good balance that allows you to hopefully prevail and as well keep growing as a fighter.
And I haven't put either of you on a scale, but you appear to have a 10, 12, maybe more pound weight advantage over Alexis Davis right now, just by observing. If you are bigger and stronger in this fight, how can you make that a weapon?
Well, I think that my butt carries most of my weight. So, you know, it's going to look really good to have a big stretched out logo on my butt, and then maybe I'll just do a bum drop, or I don't know. But there's a lot to be said for being fast. And I've always felt strong. I've always felt fast. And I feel like I'm actually quite lean for this fight. You know, I work with all of my coaches the same as I always do, and sometimes size is somewhat not a good indicator of strength and of speed, and if you get too caught up in, oh, well, they seem smaller, you kind of underestimate them. And I've been in there with Alexis, and she's one of those people where you're somewhat deceived by what she looks like and what she brings to the cage.
You know, years ago, Canada was the mecca of MMA. Is it different now? And if it is, what kind of has to happen? What kind of trends and things have to happen to make the UFC and MMA as big in Canada as it has been?
I think the biggest thing is Canada, you know, if we could get back some of the big, you know, headlining fights, you know, having GSP, I mean, was always a really big seller in Canada. And I think Rory McDonald, if he's able to win that title, you know, we need a Canadian champion for sure. And if Rory's not the first, then I'd like to be for sure. And it's just getting, you know, the fans are still interested. The fans are going to the fights. They're watching the fights. As a market, Canada is a great venue to be in. And I know that Las Vegas is wanting a lot of the big fights back in Las Vegas. Brazil, I mean, there's just so many markets now to take these big fights. And I mean, I think Canada is a great location for that, and the UFC knows that, and that's why they keep coming back to Canada.
Thanks, Sarah.